Hello there, Commonwealth from you. The September Nintendo Direct is pretty much confirmed now for the second week of September. And we can say that it is a proper leak now, with NatetheHate, who's been hitting every single Direct and big reveal this year. As NatetheHate admitted it himself, yes, there's a Nintendo Direct in September. When? The second week of the month, in the latter half on or around September 11th or 12th. Well, we waited for this moment, but he wasn't the first to bring it up. First, you had Nash Weedle, who said that we're looking at 2 Nintendo Directs for September, one of those being General Directs. Then we had Switchforce, stating that Nintendo tried to phone in an emergency about the missing Switch 2 games, but they accidentally dialed 912, so September 12th. Followed by that, we had VGC that also confirmed that there's a Nintendo Direct in the middle of the month. Finally, we have NatetheHate. So yes, we have the Tetraforce of the September Nintendo Direct leak. Joking aside, it isn't as surprising as it might seem, as most September Nintendo Directs have been in the second week of September or later. It was only in 2019 when we had a Nintendo Direct on September 4th. And of course in 2020, the Super Mario Bros. Direct. So is that it? Is this finally when we get all the answers we have been waiting for? Pretty much yes, apart from a couple of rumors that are coming later down the line. Speaking of Age of Imprisonment, the game that we've already seen twice, but still without a release date or even a specific release year, just this winter, should get a release date with the 3rd trailer. And it probably needs to do that as well, because we already know that Age of Imprisonment will be playable at Tokyo Game Show not long after, meaning that we'll have the first big gameplay of the game. And it also begs the question, could we get even a Treehouse Live for this game to precede the gameplay that will come out from Tokyo Game Show? I believe that there's a good possibility for just that. With that said, Age of Imprisonment isn't the game with the biggest need for a final release date. That title goes to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, the only game confirmed for 2025 without a release date. And a game we haven't seen anything new of since the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct in April and the demos that followed at the Nintendo Switch 2 experiences. Yes, the demo has been the same everywhere since. So definitely it will be one of the highlights and one of the big blowouts of this presentation. That covers the release dates. The one big question that everyone has had since the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, in some cases beyond that. What is the true essence and value of a general Nintendo Direct is the reveal of brand new games. Nintendo brand new games. And there are a few candidates when it comes to this possibility. No Mario 40th Anniversary Direct it seems. But Mario in Nintendo Direct? It is quite possible, because we know that Mario was all tied to Mario Kart World when it came to the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, but the Mario 40th Anniversary is literally going to be a day or two after the clued date of the September Nintendo Direct. So in other words, not recognizing it in any way, shape or form in the Direct would be very strange. And the easiest way Nintendo can do this is just giving a game in 4K 60 FPS that they didn't give on the Nintendo Switch. And that was the game that was missing in Super Mario 3D All-Stars, namely Super Mario Galaxy 2. A game that is brilliant, that will be a very fitting title for the anniversaries, because the game itself has an anniversary. It's 15th anniversary since it came out in 2010 and was the big 25th anniversary Mario game along with a re-release. I think there could be a little bit more added as well, maybe a 3D All-Stars re-release, turning it into kind of a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, but I have a more feeling that they're gonna add Super Mario Sunshine into GameCube, Nintendo Switch 2 Online. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. We could also see the first tease of maybe Super Mario Maker 3. The biggest bombshell of all would be the reveal of the next 3D Mario game. Question is it too soon after Donkey Kong Bonanza? Less than 2 months since that game came out. I think that lack of new Mario could also be substituted with Nintendo Switch 2 editions. We have very good candidates there, especially when it comes to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but also in the sense of potentially adding Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury with an upgraded, better running edition. When we're at the topic of 2D Mario games, 2D All-Star has also been rumored, but also disproven in the past. There are many possibilities for Mario in this Direct, that it could take up a bigger space now that a Mario Direct didn't happen the week prior. But there are other candidates also for Switch 2 editions. We have the Pikmin games. Pikmin 4 has been rumored to get a Switch 2 edition. Question is, will it be revealed now? And for a release still in 2025 or sometime in 2026. But truth to be told, this isn't about remakes or remasters. It has always been about brand new games. So yes, your Kirby Robobots, your ports of Xbox games, and much more else, even the release dates for Final Fantasy VII Remake and Elden Ring. It is the big question, what is Nintendo's next big game? We know that it cannot be Smash. Sakurai is way too busy with Kirby Air Riders. And yes, we could see a new trailer for that as well, but Smash is definitely a few years down the line in the Nintendo Switch 2's lifecycle. It is likely not another big seller as well, that being Animal Crossing. It's not the next Zelda game, because it's still too soon to reveal that. It's not Splatoon, because we have Splatoon Raiders coming out, another game that could get a release window with this Nintendo Direct. No, if I think about one franchise that hasn't had a big release in quite a while, and I mean a brand new release, Monolith Soft. The Xenoblade franchise has in many ways concluded when you think about it. All the games are playable on Nintendo Switch and also for backwards compatibility on Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 2 editions are very likely, but what we want from Monolith Soft is to know what they have been actually working on since finishing Xenoblade Chronicles 3 before the start of summer 2022. Next year will be 4 years since the last brand new Xenoblade Chronicles game. Is it another Xenoblade Chronicles game? Or is it a brand new IP that they have now been teasing throughout the Nintendo Switch lifecycle? No matter what, if these concepts are brought into reality, this will be a peak Nintendo Direct, no matter what else happens in it. Something I agree with Stealth. It's not enough for Monolith Soft to just show up, but they have to reveal their new game. The second big candidate of Nintendo franchise games is Fire Emblem. Another game that came out, yes, in 2023, but at the very beginning of 2023. And guess what? Since then, complete silence when it comes to the entire franchise. We know that Japan is a big focus for Nintendo. Metroid, of course, is their focus for the West. But RPGs, and especially turn-based RPGs, which Fire Emblem is definitely the domain of Japan. And I think that both Monolith Soft's new game and new Fire Emblem game would then be 2026 titles. It makes sense, because by all indications you already have a massive seller for next year. That being Pokemon Generation 10, for the 30th anniversary of that franchise, and possibly even new 3D Mario for the 30th anniversary of Super Mario 64. And then of course everything Zelda 40th anniversary related. No doubt, Nintendo has already a really solid plan for 2026. But if you in addition to that can add a brand new Monolith Soft game and a new Fire Emblem game with a Splatoon spin-off, well then you're completely dominating, even without going for the mainline new games of Animal Crossing, Smash, and Zelda, which were the biggest sellers alongside Mario Kart. If this is the strategy of Nintendo, then they have already won. Then 2026, even with GTA 6, cannot stop Nintendo. Plain and simple as that. And speaking of GTA 6, who knows? Maybe we get Red Dead Redemption 2 revealed in this as well, bringing the Direct to an even higher level than it possibly could be. That is the whole thing about the hype for this big September Nintendo Direct leak and the fact of it being general. As general Directs have to provide Nintendo franchise games, so reveals and big updates, but also the biggest third-party games, just like we saw in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. And we also need to keep in mind that we haven't had any general Nintendo Directs in close to half a year at the midpoint of September. In other words, Nintendo has been saving up, as they have only revealed one thing themselves in the meanwhile, and that is Splatoon Raiders. They definitely have a lot to bring, announce, reveal and confirm themselves, but also major third-party announcements, IO Interactive's 007 First Light gameplay, the possibility of the first Switch 2 footage. We know that Nintendo has been best home for 007 with all James Bond games present on Nintendo systems since GoldenEye. That is no exaggeration. With First Light, it also makes sense for the game to show up in a Nintendo Direct at some point. We saw the first announcement of Project 007, but we haven't seen anything First Light in context of Nintendo Direct since the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. So it would make sense to have a trailer and show how the game runs on Nintendo Switch 2, especially since the game is coming out the same day as other systems, namely March 27th. A Nintendo Direct that may not reveal the next biggest seller mainline brand new Nintendo games, but still be really damn good and securing 2026. But what are your thoughts about the September Nintendo Direct leaks? Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, and for all notifications to not miss anything. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching, and to all our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons. Special shoutouts go to Raw Producer, JC Funk, and Heroes, Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf, and Kintaro. You all rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.